what's up everybody? It's Amaya. So today's video is going to be a tutorial on this look, which is my natural, glowy, everyday look using cream products. So I'm super excited to show you guys this. This is basically what I do every single day. I actually wore this type of look to my prom. I'll insert a picture right here. I went to prom. It was my senior prom, and this was like the best prom I'd ever gone to. I've gone to several, and this was the best one, and it was probably one of the best nights of my life, which sounds kind of corny, but it really was. It was awesome. I highly recommend going to your senior prom. At least mine was really awesome. I loved it. I actually did this look for prom because it looked so natural and so beautiful in pictures. It makes your skin look so glowy and natural, and I just really love it. Also, if you guys have not already, check out my social medias. My Instagram and Twitter are right over here, and then my other social medias will be linked in the description bar. So yeah, let's hop right into it. Okay, so I already have my brows done, and I have a little bit of concealer underneath them to sculpt them out, and I did just apply a little bit of lip oil as well, so we are all nice and hydrated, everything like that. I do also have my moisturizer, eye cream, serum, all sorts of stuff like that on. My face is washed, cleaned. Good, clean, healthy skin is going to look good, clean, and healthy. So you always want to make sure you're doing that. So the first thing we're going to do is go in with primer, and I'm going to be using the Cover FX Blurring Primer first. I love using some sort of blurring primer or prolonging primer, something that's going to have actual like priming power, if you know what I mean. So I'm just going to apply this in my pore area, my T-zone right here, also on my nose, a little bit on my forehead and chin. And then I'm going to go in with the Wet n Wild Dewy Primer. And this is going to add a little bit of glow to our skin. I like this primer because it's not too dewy. It's not too like metallic and highlighty. It's definitely a more natural highlighting primer, which I like. I'm trying to avoid it in the T-zone area because we don't want to highlight any pores or anything like that. So I'm just trying to keep it where I didn't put the other primer. Okay, so I just went ahead and I brightened up my camera a little bit. I noticed things were looking a little dark, so things look different. That is why. Okay, so we are going to go in and prime our eyes as well. I'm going to be using the Wet n Wild eyeshadow primer. When doing a look with cream products, I always want to make sure my skin is really primed, because creams, even if you have dry skin, they do tend to slip around more. So you really want to make sure that you have all those products necessary to really lock in those products, because we are going to be applying a little bit of powder over top of them, but not much. It's going to be the majority of cream, so you need something to have all the products adhere to. Alright, so I'm going to go in with my concealer first. Actually, this is something I like to do because I find that I end up wearing less foundation, which gives me a more natural, more glowy look. So I'm going to be using some of the NYX Gotcha Covered waterproof concealer. This is in the shade medium, and then a little bit of the Catrice liquid camouflage high coverage concealer in the shade light beige. So this next one is very high coverage, also very long wearing because it is waterproof. I did actually wear it in the water. I went cliff diving and I actually wore this, and it lasted really well throughout the water. Like, it wouldn't look perfect at the end, but I mean, it was still there after an end of a really hot day being in the water. So I do like this one. As you can see, I'm using very little amounts of these products. Then I'm going to take my Sonia Kashuk sponge and just blend those all in. I am going to take a little bit of this and just pop it on my eyelid just a little bit, just to conceal those veins. You don't want to actually put concealer on your lids, but you just want like a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my favorite foundation. This is one of my probably top 3. This is the Wet n Wild Cushion Foundation. I have mine in the shade Buff Beige. This is my tan shade right now. And I'm just going to take the bottom of my sponge, pick up just a little bit, not a lot, and I'm just going to tap this, focusing it in my bronzer area. So I want the most coverage and the most darkness in this area. The reason why I'm putting it in this area too is because my skin would naturally be bronzed in those areas, so you want this foundation, which is darker than my face, to go in those more bronzy areas as opposed to in the areas where you already put concealer. I'm going to pop a little bit on the nose though, but for the most part I'm keeping this in the areas that I would typically bronze. Okay, so now my face is matching my body a little bit better. Remember, we are going to be still putting on bronzer and all that sorts of stuff, so we don't want to make it match too well yet. But for bronzer, I'm going to be going in with the Wet n Wild Mega Cushion. This I have just recently started using, and oh my god, I love it. I think it looks beautiful. You do have to be careful with it. You don't want to use too much because it can go south very fast, but if you use a light hand, it is beautiful. So any sort of darker concealer, cream bronzer, liquid bronzer, will work for this. I really do like this cushion one though so far. So this is what it looks like. So all I'm going to do is take this sponge. This is from Real Techniques. I think it's the highlight and contour sponge. And I'm just going to very lightly tap that in. And then I'm going to go, see, like I barely tapped that in. And I'm going to start blending this onto my cheekbones where I would typically bronze, but I'm going to bring it closer to the center of the face and also a little bit up into the highlight region, because this is where I would typically tan. So this look is all about giving you that bronzed, tan, just out of the sun sort of look. And so you want to apply that wherever you would naturally get the most sun exposure. So for me, it's on the cheeks, definitely the forehead. I got a big forehead. And it would not just be where I would contour or put bronzer, it would kind of be in this whole cheek region. Okay, so as you can see, that just gave us a really nice bronzy look, and it looks so seamless, like you almost can't see where everything starts and stops, which is exactly the look that we are going for. So for blush, there's a bunch of different things you could do. You could use a cream blush, you could skip blush, which I sometimes do if I just want a really bronzy look, or you could go in with a powder blush afterwards if you wanted to. But I'm going to be going in with the Bite Multi-Stick. This is a little mini one. This is in the shade Cashew. I love this shade. It looks very intimidating and very dark, but it gives you the most gorgeous, like rosy cheeks. I also really like my Be Lighter from LAQA & Co. You guys know I love that, but I've hit pan on that, so I'm kind of like slowing down my usage and trying to experiment with my other blushes. But all I'm going to do is just pick up a little bit of that swatch on the back of my hand, and I'm going to tap this with my finger into my cheeks. I find that with this type of product, which is like a harder cream, I really like using my finger because it kind of warms up the product. So again, I'm just putting this kind of on the apples of my cheeks almost and blending it upward into my blush area. This is another product you don't want to be too precise with. I mean, this whole look isn't really precise. Just put it in the area where you typically sunburn or where you typically get sun exposure. That's kind of what this whole look is about. I'm actually going to just apply a little bit on the nose. Okay, so now for a little bit of highlighter, I'm going to go in with my Clee Essence Moonlighter Cushion. This is in the shade Glinting Buff. I'm almost out of this stuff. It's making me so sad. Any cream or liquid highlighter will work. I just like this one because it's convenient and it gives such a gorgeous dewiness to the skin. And I'm applying this in my cheekbones almost up to like the corners of my eyes and also around my upper brow area, the temple area. This is going to give us a very natural, dewy, glowy sort of look. I have a whole video on highlighters and I mentioned some cream ones in there, so if you're looking for recommendations you can go check that video out. So this next step is optional. I will sometimes do this, but if I feel like I want a little bit of extra pop, I will go in with something like the e.l.f. Shimmer Palette, which has these really light shades of cream highlighter, and I'll just take the other end of my sponge, dip that in there, and then just pop that right on top in the center, and that's really going to give you a blinding, like, I mean, you can see blinding cream highlight. I mean, as you can see, that really did amp up the cream highlighter. But I mean, if you just use a lighter one to begin with, you can do this, but I like to kind of layer it over top in just certain areas because I feel like it looks very just looks gorgeous. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is set this down with a little bit of powder, because as much as I would just like to leave it like this, I'm going to get creasy, I am going to get a little bit oily, and things are going to slip around. Even though I am dry skinned, it just happens that way. And I want to wear this for a long time today, like all day. So if I do set this with powder, it does look good for the majority of the day. With a very light amount of powder, that's barely anything, I'm just going to press this into the under eye area. You could use a brush for this, but I find that if I press it into the skin, one, it's going to make it last longer, and two, you're going to use less powder because you're pressing it into the skin and you're getting more use out of it, so you get less of a powdery look. I do set my nose pretty heavily because makeup wears off my nose very easily, and my nose also gets really red throughout the day. Also make sure that when you're setting your concealer, you're kind of avoiding the highlight region, like don't go all the way out. I am also going to go in and just make sure there's no creases in our eyes, and I'm going to set that with a little bit of translucent powder as well. Okay, so to finish up the face, we're going to set the bronzer and blush and highlighter with this a little bit of powder. So I'm going to take the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. I switch up my bronzer like almost every day. I do this with all different kinds, so whatever works for you. You want something that's kind of lightweight and not too matte. So I'm just going to take a big fluffy brush. This is a blush brush from Real Techniques. Really tap off the excess and barely, like I am barely touching my skin. We're not really trying to add any extra color, any extra bronziness. We are literally just setting down that bronzer. Just giving it a light set so it stays in place. And then with the blush, I'm going to go in with a blush topper sort of product because I find that this is going to add a little bit extra glow to the skin. It just looks so gorgeous. So I'm going to take Hummingbird Hype from Wet n Wild. This is one of their baked blushes and it's gorgeous. It's kind of like a pinky peach duochrome. I love it. And I'm just going to take this is a crown brush. I don't know what it is, but it just looks like this. And I'm just going to, again, very lightly pop that on the cheeks. And this one, because it is a blush topper, can definitely go up into the highlight region a little bit more because it's nice and shimmery. And then for actual highlighter today, I'm going to be trying out the Morphe High Impact Highlighter in Spark. Mine came broken, so I had to repress it, which is why it looks different. I've never used this before, so I'm just going to try it out first. And then I'm probably going to go in with my Ofra Rodeo Drive highlighter. You just want to use something that's very shiny, very glowy, very glistening. Nothing that has too much glitter, nothing that's too intense. Because you don't want this to look, again, unnatural. Everything's supposed to look very natural. So I'm just taking the teeniest bit of this and just popping it so slightly onto the cheeks. And I'm really kind of buffing and working this into the skin to really get all those pearls in the product working and going. This is going to give you a very naturally dewy, almost glass-like effect. And I'm just going to apply a little bit of Ofra Rodeo Drive over top just to show you guys what this one looks like. This one is very metallic, but in like a non-sparkly way. There's no glitter, no shimmer in this at all. It's my favorite highlighter of all time. You don't have to use two highlighters. I'm just kind of experimenting with the one, so I just wanted to pop some of the other on just to show you guys, but one will be fine. Okay, now for eyes. You can leave them blank. You can put eyeshadow on them, like actual powder eyeshadow, or you can do what we're gonna do today and use a liquid and cream eyeshadow. So I'm going to be going in first with the Wet n Wild Liquid Catsuit in Shells and Whistles. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful eyeshadow. And I'm just going to be taking a little bit of this on my lid. As you can see, it's very pigmented. And I'm going to be taking this Sonia Kashuk angled eyeshadow brush. Any sort of densely packed brush will do, or you can use your finger. And I'm just kind of spreading that out over my eye, blend out those edges. These eyeshadows dry very fast, which is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, so I like to do one eye at a time. You don't want them to dry on you. So I also want to show you guys this other cool product that I've recently discovered. This is the Jcat Prismatic Chrome Eye Mousse. This is so cool. It's just like a squishy, beautiful, tacky, jelly, sparkly, gorgeous product. I don't even know how to describe this. I'm just going to take a little bit of this and pop that on the lid to add some sparkle because hello, this product is so cool. And I find that this one isn't as long lasting as the liquid catsuits, but it is still pretty long lasting. Like, it does not crease very easily, which I appreciate. If you're someone that likes a more structured sort of eye look, you can do that. I just find that something very light, very sparkly like this works really well. So I'm just going to go in with a little bit of my bronzer and just apply this to the lower lash line. You could use the liquid eyeshadow if you want, but I find that it's kind of more of a pain than it's worth. So I just take my bronzer to add a little bit of shadow to the lower lash line. For my eye shape, I feel like I need to do this, but you might not have to, you might not want to. Then I'm just going to go in with a little tiny brush and apply some of that Ofra Rodeo Drive highlighter to my inner corners. Okay, and then I'm just going to go in with some of the Wet n Wild Natural Finish Setting Spray to lock all this in. You don't want to use too much setting spray because that will really wet your look and it can kind of tend to move things around, so you just want to be very cautious of how much you use. I find that it's very natural. It's not too dewy, but it's also not too matte. I just love it. So typically I like to put a MAC Fix Plus or something on my face to give me a dewy look, but because you have cream products, you want to avoid that because they are going to get dewier throughout the day. Because we didn't really set our face as well, that is also going to get dewier throughout the day. So you'd want to avoid using one of these, but if your face feels so dry and you're like, I have to, just add a tiny bit. You don't want to add too much, but Okay, so now I'm just going to go in and curl my lashes and apply a little bit of mascara, and I will be right back. Okay, so for lips, I'm going to keep it very simple, and I'm just going to use the Bite Multi-Stick on my lips. You could use whatever you want. You could do no lips. I do that sometimes. You could do a bold lip. That would look really pretty. Or you could just go with something natural. I like using the Bite Multi-Stick, one because it's meant for the lips too, and also then we will match our blush, which kind of creates a more natural effect to this look. And over top of that, I'm just going to apply a little bit more of our lip oil to just add a little bit of shine. Okay, you guys, so that is it for this finished look, my everyday makeup look using creams. I hope you guys like this. I always love how this makeup look turns out. You're still glammed up, but it really doesn't look like you're wearing that much makeup. I also love that you can still see, you know, your freckles through it. You can see any imperfections, which I personally think makes it look more natural, makes it look more beautiful, because that's your skin and you should be proud of it. So yeah, that's it for this video, you guys. I hope you guys like it. Please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I will see you in my next one. Mwah. Bye.